Antonio is Spanish, living in California with his mom, Cecilia, and working as a valet. On his way to fetch his son Marco from school, he passes by a rich real estate developer, Vincent Royce, and his wife Catherine. They are giving a speech on several projects that will benefit the neighborhood. Upon reaching his son's school, he becomes shocked seeing his son talking to a girl. Marco gets closer to him telling him not to say anything, and he does exactly that, acting out exactly what Marco wants. Antonio then takes him to his apartment. At his door, he meets his Korean landlord, Mr. Kim, with a toolbox in his hand, and wonders what he came to fix this time around. Immediately he enters. He asks his mom why the landlord has been here 3 times this week fixing their toilet. Cecilia claims it's an old building and old buildings usually have need for fixing. Antonio then suggests they get a real plumber to fix it once and proceeds to inform Mr. Kim about it. Just then, Cecilia stops him, saying she will tell him everything. This shocks Antonio as Mr. Kim understands and speaks Korean language only, and his mom also speaks and understands Spanish only, but Cecilia replies that they speak a deeper language that only they understand. I guess we all would want to learn that language. She then tells Antonio everything in the house works perfectly and Mr. Kim solely comes there to see her. Next, Olivia Allen, a famous actress, is recording a scene and completely forgets her line. She leaves the scene in an all-black outfit, hops into her car, and later changes her car in the garage to divert the attention of the paparazzi. She then enters the Royce Hotel where Vincent, the real estate developer, is waiting for her. She gets into his room and they share a kiss. Antonio and his sister Clara are preparing dinner in his apartment. Clara brings up a divorce topic to make Antonio feel he's not the only one going through divorce on Earth, but he claims he's just separated, not divorced. Clara then suggests he goes for the music teacher in her school, but her husband, Benny, thinks the music teacher isn't hot enough and recommends the gym lady. When Clara goes to ask her mom about her relationship with Mr. Kim, she defends herself saying she never complained when Clara chose to be with Benny. They then hear a knock on the door. Antonio answers it. It's his wife Isabel, who has come to pick up Marco. While Marco packs his stuff, Antonio uses the time to have a little convo with her. Isabel opens up about how the bank denied her loan because she fell behind on some payments, and for that reason she has to take a year off from school. She mentions that she needs $12,850 to get back on her feet, and Antonio is willing to do anything to help her. But she makes it clear to him she has moved on and is now seeing Ronnie, a realtor. Just then, Marco interrupts them saying his grandma's medicines are finished and things will get out of hand if she suffers another heart attack. Isabel and Marco walk away. In the Royce Hotel, Vincent and Olivia are lying down when Vincent's wife, Catherine, calls twice. Olivia gets out of the bed feeling guilty for sleeping with a married man. As soon as she dresses up to leave, Vincent stops her, saying he was about to break up with his wife but her mom died and she got depressed, so he is waiting for her to heal. He then gives Olivia a journal for their anniversary. Olivia accepts it and bids Vincent goodbye. Vincent quickly dresses up, running after her to explain things to her. During that same time, Antonio is leaving the pharmacy after getting his mom's medicines. Vincent is still running after Olivia. He mentions her name while she ignores him, and this gets the attention of the paparazzi. On that same street, Antonio sees the bench with his wife's lover's picture on it. He stares at it until he crashes with Olivia's Uber. Olivia helps Antonio back on his feet, and the paparazzi uses this as an opportunity to get pictures of Olivia and Vincent together. Antonio sends his bike for repairs the next day. Antonio teases Natalie when he hears her speaking Spanish. She thanks him for doing that in front of her daughter and tells him Vincent's development is going to get them kicked out of the shop after 15 years of working there. While Antonio leaves, Natalie complains about his mustache. Olivia is in her office when she sees a picture of her, Antonio, and Vincent on the social networks, and she freaks out knowing her reputation is about to sink. Catherine also sees this and asks Vincent to explain himself. Vincent tells her he has never met her before. He says again that many celebrities were present that night, so it's by chance he was seen standing by them. He goes on further, saying Olivia and Antonio were together that night and showed the picture to her as proof. Catherine still doesn't believe him, but he tries to calm her down and leaves for his office. At his office, he is discussing with his lawyer how he can get all this fixed. His lawyer then comes up with an idea to pay Antonio to go out with Olivia for some days and get pictures to show to everyone that they're lovers. The lawyer goes to Antonio's workplace to tell him about it. Antonio accepts it and charges them $12,850. The exact amount Isabel needs to get back into school. Vincent is surprised to hear his price, but he accepts it and tells Olivia about it, and she also accepts. Catherine wants to clear her doubts, so she hires Stegman to follow Olivia's every step. The next day, Olivia is on her way to meet Antonio. Vincent's lawyer calls her to inform her she's been followed. She makes it known to her that Catherine hired the man in the car behind her to get information about her. And the next car after him is Kapoor, the guy they hired to get pictures. Olivia arrives at Antonio's workplace. She walks straight to Antonio with a smile and kisses him, getting everyone shocked, even Antonio himself. Stegman and Kapoor quickly take shots. Olivia then takes Antonio with her to a restaurant where the paparazzi is already waiting for their arrival. Antonio doesn't feel comfortable with so many people around him taking pictures. As they take their seats, Olivia asks Antonio to make a joke so that she laughs. Antonio can't make any, but Olivia still laughs hard and explains the paparazzi always uses the laughing shot. She then tells him he'll be her date for her movie premiere and asks him to shave his mustache off. Soon, the pictures of their lunch date are trending. Isabel starts feeling regret for leaving Antonio. Catherine also calls Vincent to apologize to him for not trusting him when he said he didn't have anything to do with her. But deep in her heart, she still believes there's a lie somewhere. Later that night, Antonio and Olivia arrive at the premiere. Antonio gets tense seeing all the camera lights flashing in his face. Olivia tells him to smile for the cameras and he forces one out. Cecilia becomes very happy seeing Antonio on TV. After the film, Antonio and Olivia join the party. Olivia spots Vincent and Catherine and becomes nervous at once. Catherine and Vincent approach them and congratulate her. Catherine then starts questioning them about how they meet. Olivia's secretary sees this and quickly saves them from embarrassment. Outside, Kapoor goes to Stegman and gives him a falafel. While Stegman turns to get some napkins, Kapoor swiftly plants a listening device into his car. At the party, Antonio is alone enjoying his pastries when Catherine approaches him saying she'll double whatever amount her husband is paying him because she knows Olivia won't go out with someone like him. Antonio gets hurt by her words and fires back at her for underestimating him. Antonio then finds Olivia drunk at the staircase and takes out his phone to call her limo, but she stops him, saying the paparazzi doesn't have to see her in this state. He then takes her through the kitchen, and while they pass, his fellow Latinos praise him for gaining popularity. Antonio's friends pull up at the back exit and take Olivia to Antonio's apartment since she couldn't give them her house address. Upon reaching the house, Cecilia tells Antonio the walls are thin, so they should reduce the noise they'll make, but Antonio makes her aware that she brought her because she couldn't give her address and they're just going to sleep. In the room, Antonio tells Olivia to sleep in her clothes, but she takes it off and falls asleep within a second. Olivia wakes up the next morning confused, and when she sees Antonio, she thanks him for taking care of her. She then dresses up, calls her secretary to pick her up and heads to the bathroom to clean her face. Olivia and Antonio then step out the room only to see Antonio's family members, Mr. Kim's family, Antonio's friends and neighbors all present in his house. Cecilia told Benny about her presence and he also spread the good news. They make her have some chilaquiles which she loves, and they continue to give her more dishes and engage her in their conversations. A knock on the door interrupts them. It's Isabel. She brought Marco to pick up his math book. Isabel sees Olivia and apologizes to Antonio for interrupting his sweet moment. Antonio, feeling upset, heads straight into his room and Olivia follows him. Antonio tells Olivia he feels he has ruined everything because he was trying to win Isabel back. Just then, Isabel sends Antonio a text that he needs him to sign some field trip form for Marco. Leaving, Olivia assures him it's not about a field trip form. Olivia didn't lie about that. Isabel is jealous seeing them together, but she acts like she doesn't care and leaves. Back inside the apartment, Marco is telling Olivia about his school play, in which he's taking the role of Lysander in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and when leaving, he invites her to see it. Olivia's secretary arrives. They pack some food for her, take pictures and say their goodbyes. Stegman watches and informs Catherine about it while Kapoor listens to their conversation. Kapoor then informs Vincent that Olivia spent the night in Antonio's apartment. Out of jealousy, He asks Kapoor to hire another to monitor both Olivia and Antonio day and night. Kapoor hires Stegman to do that since his contract with Catherine has come to an end. Later that night, a party is being held in Royce's house. Vincent gets a call from a number saved as Councilman Garcia and excuses himself to answer it. It's Olivia. He asks her where she was last night, and before she could answer, Catherine appears behind him asking him to come for dinner, so he hangs the call up. She stares outside her window feeling lonely and goes to Marco's school to see the play. After the play, the whole family gathers to have dinner and dance. Antonio bumps into Natalie. Natalie tells Antonio she's still worried about losing her shop, and he assures her everything will be fine. Natalie then cuts the conversation short, saying she has gone to her friends, and gives him a kiss. Benny sees them and bows to Antonio for his new skill in winning women's hearts. Isabel waits for Antonio to come out of the gents and forces a kiss on him, asking him if she stands a chance in his life. Antonio answers affirmatively and later asks what she's going to do with Ronnie, but she tells him Ronnie is an idiot. Antonio then tells her the truth behind his affair with Olivia. Before he could finish talking, Isabel hears Ronnie calling out her name, so she leaves. Later, Olivia asks Antonio to walk her to her car. When they step out, they notice the car that always follows them around. Antonio asks her if she wants to play with their minds, and she says yes. He then carries her on his bike and leads the car to a narrow path where following them will be difficult. He then walks her around his neighborhood and finally takes her to her car. Olivia says she doesn't want to feel lonely tonight, so she wants to spend the night at his apartment. Antonio agrees and takes her. When they arrive, Antonio catches his mom smoking, but she denies it, saying she's just looking at some two men that have been spying on them. She later accepts that she was smoking and says it's the only thing that gives her pleasure. Antonio then closes the curtains to avoid Stegman and Kapoor from seeing through. Olivia asks him to leave the bedroom curtains. She wants to give them the information that Vincent is looking for. She takes Antonio inside and pretends to have sex with him while Stegman and Kapoor record them. The next morning, Isabel sends Antonio a text that she wants to meet him. He rushes out of the bed and rides through the streets with smiles on his face, expecting to hear good news. At the coffee shop, Isabel tells him she has thought about everything and realizes she needs to divorce him because he acts and lives like he doesn't deserve much. Looking at the money he turned down from Catherine, Antonio breaks down the moment he hears this. Vincent is at his office when he receives the video of Olivia and Antonio from last night. Antonio arrives home angry and walks straight into his room. Olivia goes to him to console him, but he tells her to walk out of his life for good because he sees that she's just using him. So she leaves. He turns towards his bike and finds out it's been stolen. Just then, Vincent arrives and punches him, telling him he hired him not to sleep with his girlfriend. Vincent's lawyer shows up and calls him into his car. The lawyer gives Antonio a check of $25,000, but Antonio rejects it at the start and changes his mind later on when he remembers what Isabel told him. Back in Antonio's apartment, Mr. Kim and Cecilia are cooking while Stegman watches them and wishes he had a relationship like theirs. Kapoor approaches him and asks if he wants to be his roommate in the new apartment he's renting, and he says yes. The two hug, and while hugging, Stegman sees Cecilia collapse and Mr. Kim calling for help. At Cecilia's funeral, Antonio speaks about the struggles she faced in life and how she pulled through all successfully. He also thanks Mr. Kim for making his mom feel special once again. Later, Benny has promoted Antonio to head another restaurant. His friends advise him to go to Olivia and apologize for how he spoke to her, and he does so. He arrives at the set where Olivia is recording a scene. He takes her for a walk and apologizes for how he acted the other time. Again, he tells her to break up with Vincent, but she says anytime she tries doing that, he talks her out of it. Antonio then tells her to call when she feels weak to tell him so that he'll remind her of the kind of person he is. In Vincent's home, Catherine is by the poolside when Vincent arrives from work. Catherine asks him to change up and he does so. While he's gone, his phone keeps ringing and ringing. Catherine takes it and sees the caller, Councilman Garcia, occurring many times, and calls back. Olivia picks the call up and she hears her voice. In the next scene, someone in an all-black attire drives to the Royce Hotel and enters Vincent's room. The person takes off the cap and Vincent is shocked to see Antonio in his room and in the same attire Olivia comes to him with. Antonio then hands him divorce papers to sign, but he rejects it, saying he'll call the security to take him away. Antonio stops him with a call from his wife. Catherine informs Vincent she's taking the company from him because it's her dad's. Again, she'll sue him for falsifying holdings in the company. Vincent begs her to stop and tells her Olivia means nothing to her. Catherine then hands the call over to Olivia and tells Vincent that Olivia is with her. He then changes his tone and tells Olivia he has finally broken up with Catherine so they can move on. Olivia waits for him to complete his speech and curses him in Spanish and then gives Catherine a high five for a mission accomplished. Catherine later asks Antonio if there's something she can do to thank him and he says yes. Antonio makes Catherine terminate the project Vincent is working on. In the next scenes, Mr. Kim is seen in Antonio's apartment, enjoying his company and watching TV with the kids. Vincent gets arrested and Stegman and Kapoor are living together happily. Later, Antonio takes his tire to the bike shop to get a bike that fits it. Natalie surprises him with his bike which she bought from someone. Antonio leaves it for her to fix it. While on his way, his instincts tell him to go back and propose to her and he does. The movie ends with Antonio telling Olivia about how his date with Natalie went.